Good morning from the garden and welcome to this year's first harvest video. It's the last weekend of April, and because of the sunny weather in combination with some much needed rain, there's been an explosion of growth in the garden. Unfortunately, this past week we took turns getting sick, and that means we have not been in the garden in a week. That means that some of the produce might be a little overdue for harvesting, but in any case I expect there will be lots to pick. So let's have a look, and let's start with the annuals in our vegetable garden. Recently I did a poll on Instagram on using row covers in the garden, and I was surprised that less than 50% people said they were using row covers, because I personally find them very useful, especially in the beginning of the season, to protect some of the early sowings, like this bed, which has been sown with radishes, rocket, mustard leaf and some spinach. So let's have a look whether there are already some radishes to pick. I've sown different types of radishes. It seems that the French breakfast type, the longer ones, are growing the fastest. Even so, they're quite tiny still, but I have started picking, because that way I'm kind of harvest thinning. That's what I call it. I'm increasing the distance between the individual plants so that the remaining plants can get larger, and obviously the really tiny vegetables are often the most flavorful. And also, thanks to the row cover, it doesn't only protect crops from cold weather and wind, it also protects them from pests, which is why the leaves are also looking really healthy and lush. So I'll be using those I will stir them into potato mash, I think. Then further in this bed I have 3 rows of rocket and some mild tasting mustard greens. We did a mustard greens trial last year when I grew 12 different varieties, and this year I'm only growing the most mild tasting, because those were most popular within our family, especially if I want to get my kids to eat the salads, then it's better to grow the mild flavored varieties such as bacana or pink lettuce, which I have here. And those I will harvest by the cut and come again method. I'm just cutting them about 2 centimeters or an inch above ground, and then I will let them regrow, and usually this way you can get about 3 cuts. And again, no pests, the greens are looking healthy and beautiful. In the next bed, next to the radishes and mustard greens, I have my overwintered broccoli. And like here behind, I don't know whether you can see it, is my purple sprouting, which many people grow. I have already harvested from it a couple of times, but here this one is a perennial type of broccoli. It's called 9-star perennial, and the thing is, if you keep harvesting it, it will, apart from this central quite large head, it will also produce numerous side shoots. There are already some here, and I have already harvested some actually. And if you prevent it from flowering, from forming seed, that you can perennialize it, it should keep for about 3 to 5 years. But we'll see whether it will be the case in our garden, because usually these large brassicas are not very happy on our sandy soil. So I will definitely keep up with the harvest and prevent it from flowering, and we'll see how many years we can keep it in the garden. So there's quite a lot of broccoli. We're also still harvesting from the greenhouse, and here too has been an explosion of growth. I'll be planting my tomatoes shortly, but for now we're still picking from the plants that have been put here in October, November. And what I want to show you especially, many are running to seed, like the coriander here, but what I want to show you especially are these lettuce plants. And those over here, which have given us so many harvests. We've been picking from them. I'm harvesting them leaf by leaf, like always the outside leaves, and then leaving the heart of the plant. We started picking from them in February, when the growth starts to pick up again after when the days get longer. And from then we've been picking from them once a week, then twice a week. Now we could be picking three times a week. As you can see, we're behind here and picking too. So that's really amazing. It's we've been harvesting from the same plants for over 2 months, and they're still not running to seed. Okay, we have already a lot of greens for our salads, but let's check out our asparagus bed. So this is what happens when the weather is favorable and you don't harvest in a week. You can see that lots of the spears are already actually too large. The ideal stage for harvesting would be something like this. Those are still fine to harvest, but I will even pick the very tall ones and only use the tops. And since we're picking them and using them absolutely fresh, I expect they will still be fine to eat. So this is quite a hefty bunch of asparagus, and my husband keeps insisting on me making asparagus soup. So I think that the slightly older spears that are a bit past their prime will be perfect for that. So that's probably what we're having for dinner tonight. We are not only growing and harvesting vegetables in our garden, we also have mushrooms. I can't really say we're growing the mushrooms because they're more growing, it's more like they're growing themselves. This is wine caps, Stropharia, and they appeared spontaneously after we imported some, they appeared last year when we imported some wood chips to cover our path. And this year I was waiting for them to appear, and because the spring has been, up till this week, has been very dry, there were no mushrooms. But we had some showers, I think on Tuesday was the first time that it rained. Tuesday, Wednesday was the first time that it rained in weeks. And then also the mushrooms immediately respond to that and explode. So we'll have some, I don't know whether you can even see them, they're so well hidden in the wood chips. We also have some mushrooms to harvest. And there's more here. So we have to be careful when we walk on the path so as not to step on mushrooms. There are some of these large ones, but I will not be harvesting those because the tiny ones with their where the hood is still closed are much better to eat. So this is the furthest part of our garden, of our plot, and it is the part that we're developing as an edible forest garden. And as you can see, the herb layer in this part is really well established by now, and it's really varied. So there are lots of greens that I could be picking for salads as well, but since I already picked some annual greens, I will not be doing that. However, there's one thing that I want to pick, and that's the rhubarb over here. And also I think some of the flowers of this kale. We have lots of rhubarb plants all over the perennial part, or the food forest part of the garden, because I find them very useful in the herb layer. They're a great mulch plant because the leaves that we don't eat we can use as mulch, but also because they're so large and spreading, they cover the soil very effectively. So I think that will be about enough for dessert tonight. It's always interesting, especially in the spring, to see the difference between the growth in the food forest garden in the herb layer here, where we have perennial plants, and the annual vegetable garden when the things here as you've just seen, are really tiny so far, but because the perennial plants start from well-established roots, they're already large. We have cardoons here, lupin, we're not eating that, but it's just such a great reminder of the worth of perennial plants. One thing that I want to pick here is mint, because I have a bit upset stomach, so I've been drinking lots of mint tea. We have different varieties here. We have, this is the classic Moroccan mint, which is great for tea, but we have also some grapefruit mint and peppermint and other varieties, so I'll be picking some of that. As I said, there's more that we could be harvesting at this moment, especially in the food forest part of the garden. But since my harvest basket is already overflowing, I think I'll stop now. This will definitely see us through the next few days. I hope you enjoyed this video and a look at what can be harvested in a cool climate, the variety that can be harvested in a cool climate in April already. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and I'll see you again soon. Happy gardening!